Welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes from 1970 onwards. I'm your host, Mike Karen, and with me is my co-host,
Chad Campbell.
Before we get to today's film, we'd like to invite you to check us out on Instagram. Our handle is @ScreamStreamPod. Also, be sure to check out our website, screamsandstreams.com, for more information about all the films we are looking at. Just a warning, in the podcast, we do jump around in the plot, and we may end up spoiling the film if you haven't had the chance to see it yet. If you don't like spoilers, we recommend that you stop listening now, check out the film, and then rejoin us for our discussion. Today, we are looking at Irwin Allen's 1978 film, The Swarm. It scored 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's get into it. Chad, do you want to give us the plot summary?
Sure. I took this from the IMDb website, which gave it 4.5 out of 10. So, yeah, it's rough.
Yep.
Scientists Dr. Bradford Crane and Army General Talia Slater join forces to fight an almost invisible enemy threatening America. Killer bees that have deadly venom and attack without reason. Disaster movie master Irwin Allen's film contains spectacular special effects, including a train crash caused by the eponymous swarm.
Ooh.
It's a doozy.
It's a doozy. Surprised they didn't point out that it was African killer bees, because that's going to come up in one of the topics later.
Oh, that's definitely coming up, yeah.
We're going to get right to our first impressions. So, Chad, why don't you start off with yours?
Sure. So at first I pulled this thing up and noticed that it's over 2 hours long. This movie clocks at 2 hours and 35 minutes.
Yep.
And man, could it have been shorter. It is very, very long. The scenes are drawn out painfully so. There are scenes that don't even need to be in there. I don't understand why some of these scenes were tacked on. It seemed like the movie was lost. It wasn't sure what it wanted to do. It wanted to be a serious, thriller, obviously, but then they've got these elements of, they tack on this love story. They tack on a couple of love stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't forward the film in any way.
No.
So, I mean, there's lots of things like that. The fact that we don't know why Crane is there in the first place. And this comes up later in one of my quotes. The general says, "How did you get here?" Well, that story starts about a year ago, but we'll just skip that. And there's no reference to it again. Like, we don't know who this Crane guy is. He's just driving around in his van with all this entomology gear. Yeah. And
just happens to be at the right place at the right time.
At this military base.
Yeah.
When this all goes down, that didn't make sense. It takes him 25 minutes to check his credentials and find out who he is.
Yeah.
And in the opening scene, when all those military guys jump out of that vehicle, that all-terrain vehicle, it's like a clown car. There's 20 of them in there. And they're all in these orange jumpsuits with these gas masks that just look ridiculous. Oh my God. Choppers explode upon impact like within seconds. If you've seen The Simpsons, when they kind of mock how action movies do explosions, that is exactly what happens in this film. So, I mean, it is just ridiculous. And 2.5 hours. God damn, it is just so long. So long. And Michael Caine yells in every scene. I don't think he has two emotions: quiet and tender, and yelling. Yeah. That's it.
So mad. So fast.
Oh, so fast.
So often.
Just yelling at the general. No! Overall first impression, not a good film. Too long. Scenes needed to be cut. And it looks old.
Yeah.
It
felt 1950s.
Yeah. We've looked at some movies from the 70s that did not look like that.
No.
I thought it was going to be a Godzilla film.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it had that sort of cheap set look to it.
It really did, yeah.
Yeah. Everything's plywood and just sort of glued together.
Even the guy's like flamethrower pack.
Yeah.
Were those two green bottles painted on to like a board, like a 4x6 board or something like it. It's just bad. It's not even fun bad. It's just bad.
It's just bad.
And I mean, 9%, I'd say I liked it more than an amusement park.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and that got 100%.
Maybe at the end of all of this, we're going to have to like dig into Rotten Tomatoes and realize that was the wrong scale to go with.
Yeah, they really hammered this one. But yeah, it's not a good film.
No. And I'll jump in there with my first impressions. And I got to start off by saying I've seen this movie before.
What?
Yeah, I don't really remember seeing it, but that opening scene when the guys in the orange jumpsuits are going down into the bunker.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I was like, I don't know where it was in the back of my head, but somewhere in my childhood, I have seen this movie.
You blocked it out.
Yeah.
Trauma.
From the trauma of it. But like, I have a severe phobia of anything that stings. And so I was like, when I was first watching this, I paused it and I said to my wife, I'm like, I've seen this before. I wonder if this is where my phobia came from. But no. Like, there's a lot of bees and there's a lot of stinging, but I do remember there was this movie obviously somewhere in my subconscious, but there's another film and I still can't figure out the name of it where a guy crossbreeds locusts and wasps.
Yeah.
And the film is all about these things basically just eating and destroying human beings and
murder hornets.
Yeah, pretty much. So between the African killer bees of this and that film, I think that's where my phobia developed.
But that's the other thing about this film. You don't even see them sting. Like, they just buzz around.
Yeah.
And the kids, well, yeah, there's death of kids in this. They flail around and swing around and stuff, but you never actually see the bee sting anybody.
No.
And I guess they couldn't show that, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, there'd probably be some humane, like I'm sure bees died in the filming of this, but
right, yeah.
There'd probably be some humane society saying like, you can't show that because bees were known to die if they sting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So
can't be killing off all these bees because you want to show a stinging. And what actor signs up to be stung by 100 bees?
Yeah, I think there's the other problem. But yeah, I actually didn't know the length of the movie. I just like sat down and it was in the middle of the day. So I'm like, I'm going to watch Halloween. I'm like, nope, the room's too bright. I'm going to go for The Swarm. So I just jumped out of one and into the other and started watching the movie. And yeah, it felt like a 1950s sci-fi set. The opening soundtrack made it seem like it was going to be more sci-fi.
Yep.
And then it just slowed right down to a glacial pace.
Oh,
I didn't enjoy the pacing. I didn't enjoy the characters.
Crane's a dick.
Yeah. And the whole time I'm like, why is he yelling? So many times in my notes. Why is he yelling? Why is he yelling? And then at some point I hit pause to go get a glass of water and it said an hour and a half still remaining. I was like, how? Yeah. How am I an hour in and there's an hour and a half? I thought the timing was wrong.
Yeah.
So I looked it up on IMDb. I was like, no, that is the length of the movie. Just like, oh God.
I did the exact same thing. I went upstairs to get something. I paused it. And when I came back down, I looked at where I was and I had an hour left. I had over an hour left. Oh. And I was just like, how is this possible? They're already attacking the village. Yeah. Like, what? How am I stretching a full other hour out of this film?
Because I got to go to Houston next.
Oh my God.
So yeah, no, I did. I did not enjoy the film. I didn't enjoy watching it. You're right. It's better than the amusement park. It is better than some of the things we've had to endure for this podcast, but it's not.
But not by much. Like,
I won't sit down to watch this again. I won't. There's not even parts that I would like pull out to show people.
Yeah, no, there's not. Yeah.
Spoiler alert for one of our later categories.
It's poorly acted, it's poorly edited, it's poorly written. And the other thing is a big cast. Like, there's lots of people in it.
Well, that's, and again, like, just like Devil's Reign, I felt like we were blindsided by great cast, bad film.
Right.
Like, and that's what I even wrote, that was my first note, test of time, the cast. And I've crossed that out because it's not even worth mentioning. Or well, I guess we have mentioned it.
We mentioned it, yeah.
But it's just,
it's amazing how like so many well-respected actors were in this film. And it's just dog shit. Like, it's just so bad. Somebody's agent needed to be fired.
Everyone's agent needed to be fired. There are 7 Oscar winners in this film.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like, you look at that list of people coming across the screen, like, this is going to be great. But even when I was watching that, because I knew the rating was bad, I was like, oh, here we go. Devil's Reign did the same thing to me. So
keep looking for this diamond in the rough. And it's just
this is the unknown film that everyone hated, but actually it's great. Nope, this wasn't it yet.
Nope.
Okay, we're going to move into our tropes hall of shame, and I'm going to kick us off. The first one I have is getting the team together. I just love Crane's there. They haven't checked his credentials, but they're like, yeah, we'll give you authority. We'll figure out what you need. Call everyone on my list and tell them the war I've always talked about has started.
Yes.
It's like, I can only solve it if I have these specific people who bring nothing to the table.
No. One guy argues with him the whole time. He argues with him at the press conference that it's not African killer bees. They're other kinds of bees. And have you done the appropriate amount of testing to make sure that these are African killer bees?
Oh, the guy with the beard who gets off the helicopter saying, I'm not here I'm here, but under duress.
Yes, I didn't want to come.
I want to say Wallace, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've seen him in other stuff. Like
well, it's Richard Chamberlain.
Is that who that is? Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yes, I've seen him in lots of stuff. And he does nothing except that little bit.
Yeah.
Like he gets a couple of lines where he's supposed to, like, I guess, flex his muscle.
Yeah.
But then nothing happens. And that's it.
No, Crane just has full autonomy and can do whatever he wants. So just deal with it. Yeah.
No questions asked. No questions asked. The military just gives him everything. They just say, the president says you can do whatever you want. You have full power. No questions asked. And the delivery of that line killed me. No questions asked.
My next trope is the romance between the hero and the main female character. And I've never seen two people on screen with less chemistry, but also no established relationship. There's a couple scenes where they look at each other. Yes. There's a scene where they walk down the street. Yes. But they keep saying like, oh, you're in a relationship. And you're like, she even gets chastised by one of her higher ups in the army for having a relationship with Dr. Crane. But there's been no relationship other than the fact that she's female, he's male, and they're working together. They don't do a good job of establishing that there's a romance between the two of them.
Yeah, until they were in the bus in his van driving down the street and said, well, this is the best part of my day. And she goes, I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, God, it's so bad. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, no chemistry whatsoever.
No, none.
Yeah.
What are some of your tropes?
The explosions of the helicopters and the train, basically anything.
Yeah.
That
the ambulance.
The minute it touches a building or a cliff, it just explodes. It's so funny.
That train crash.
Crash. When I watched it, I thought, because George Lucas used models in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And so I just thought, was modeling and filming technology just not ready when this film was made? Because Irwin, go take a class. Yeah. Figure it out, man. That train was horrible. It looked like a model train falling down a side of a model cliff. Yeah. It's just so bad. And the helicopters, when they were coming down, they looked like models as well. And oh, man. And what shitty pilots that can't recorrect that chopper.
Yeah. Well, what I love is, I didn't write this down, but you're fighting a swarm of bees. You know it's a swarm of bees, yet everyone flies or drives with the window open.
Yeah.
Right? That train, the conductor has his window open. And then one bee gets in. He's like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, every bee in the world gets in.
Well, and the funny thing is, he's sitting there with its on and said, what do I do? Do I hit it? And the guy is like, don't kill it or we'll have 1,000 in here. And then he hits it. And then sure enough, 1,000 bees come rushing into the train. Yeah. It's, yeah, all the windows are open.
Crane and the captain, they're driving towards Houston and they see this, or they're driving towards Houston, I think, and they see the swarm in the sky. And I'm like, their wind is blowing in the breeze. They have their windows open. What are they thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, seal it up.
Yeah.
And then when they're flying the helicopters, the way that those bees are hitting the windshield at the start of it, it was like they had a leaf blower just shooting the bees at the windshield. It
so good.
I'm liking this movie the more we talk about it.
Still not worth watching.
Still not worth watching. Oh, it's so bad. So that one, and then I had the slow motion flailing around. Whenever the bees attack a group of people, they put it in slow motion because everything's better in slow motion. So these kids are falling around. When the family gets killed at the beginning, they're falling around. And the acting by that family is A1. Yeah. I'll tell you. Line delivery 101 from that fucking troop.
I just love the kid gets the fuck out of Dodge, runs to the car and ditches the parents.
Yeah. And then screams, Mom, Dad.
Like smart kid, get to safety.
Yeah. And he drives the car into town. Just beep, 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 beep.
So good. My next trope, it's like, what's our timeline? How long will we be here? Until we've destroyed the African killer bee or it has destroyed us.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's all or nothing stakes in this one.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, there's the old doctor who tests the antidote on themselves.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, yeah, Krim thinks he's got it. So he injects himself with the venom.
Yeah. He's going to be the martyr, right? He's going to.
What I love is it's like they know that 4 is a lethal dose and the captain had 2 and she survived. He's like, so I'm going to inject 6. It's like, why? And we know it takes a minute for everything to set in. So I'm going to wait 60 seconds.
Yeah. Before I inject
my antidote. Like. And it's so good. Like he's sitting in the wheelchair, he injects it in and he's got the syringe for the antidote just out of arm's reach. And he's trying to move his right arm and he can't, it's paralyzed. So then he uses his left arm to pick up his right arm to then go move it towards the syringe. It's like, just use your left arm.
Use the left arm to get the syringe. Get the antidote in you, man. Yeah. Oh, man. Did you see him use his legs?
No, I missed that.
Oh, I thought when he first arrived, like I don't know why I thought this, that maybe he just had trouble walking, but he actually is supposed to be fully paralyzed from the waist down. So they're moving, like Crane even has to pick him up and put him from the helicopter into the wheelchair when he comes back. There's a scene right before the press conference where they're all walking into the press conference and first of all, the layout of this bunker is just messed up because they're going in one door, Crane's coming in another door, and they're all entering the same room because they're all in the press conference together afterwards. So I don't know. I didn't get that. But anyways, he's coming across and he's wheeling across the hallway. And then he sticks his foot out to push the door open and goes through the door.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I just lost it. I said I don't have a back it up a moment. Later on, that's my back.
That's your back it up. I do remember now that you said that. There's the scene where his helicopter lands, the side door opens, and he turns his legs towards the opening. Like a man just sort of mansplaining his legs across.
Ready to, just opens them up,
So as you started to describe, like, is that the scene? No. Okay, there's 2 where he used his legs.
And that one, so the one that I saw, I didn't pick up that one, but the one that I saw was really blatant. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, they kept that in? Yeah. Why didn't they just cut that out? Like,
crop it or frame it differently.
Reshoot it. Yeah.
And what's some of your other tropes?
Usually in films, they always try to tack on a love story, and here they tried to tack on several. And I just thought there was no point. Not everything has to have a love story involved. As we mentioned, those 2 had no chemistry anyway, so they should have just worked together. They should have just been scientists together. We didn't need to have them trying to get together. And then the principal and those 2 old dudes that were trying to like buying her flowers and saying they wanted to marry her and stuff like that. There was no point. And it just went on forever. So just tacked on love stories in films that don't need them.
Yeah. One of my tropes is, a civilian and an authority figure struggling over who's in charge.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I mean, we've already mentioned it several times, but you've got Crane comes in, unexplained why, but he's like, I'm in charge and I have authority. And of course, then the general's like, you can't just do these things. We need to control this. It's like the president's giving me full authority. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. I almost feel like there was going to be an FBI person that says like, oh, it's my jurisdiction.
Yeah. Don't you give me any of that jurisdictional bullcrap.
And then my last one, kind of just a low-hanging fruit, but it's, a town event impacted by the disaster. So, of course...
Yeah, fair enough.
They're having a flower festival when there's a bee swarm.
They make mention of that too. It's like they've all come here because your town is like littered with flowers, right? So, and I love the fact that they spend 2.5 minutes talking about this flower festival that never happens.
Yeah, and a banner.
And they have this banner up, and your banner kind of looks hicky.
Well, that's what people come here for, the hickiness of it.
Yeah, people like the way we do things around here.
So bad. All right, we're now going to move into our one-liners, and I'm going to start us off. And this one it has to do with the love triangle between Maureen and the two gentlemen. Because I was just like, why do we have horny old people in a movie? So Felix is putting up a banner and Maureen walks by and she asks, how are you feeling today? And he's like, now that you're here, I'm just doing fine.
Yeah.
And then Clarence walks out and he's like, well, everything's looking mighty pretty, Maureen. And that's including you.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, oh God, what are we in for on this one? So I had to write that down.
Yeah.
Well, what was one of your lines?
It was right at the beginning when I think it was the choppers were flying. It's like, bees, millions of bees. Actually, my daughter was down in the basement when that line was said, and she just started laughing. And she's like, that sounds hilarious. And it does. Bees, millions of bees.
I flashed back to the Arrested Development, like Pop loves his honey.
And then my other one, I don't know why this one jumped out at me, but it was the way it was delivered. It just was so bad that it made the cut. And it was the family's getting ready to eat their picnic lunch. And she's like, wait for Paul. I can't, I'm starving.
Yeah. Yeah, the asshole father. Like, no, I'm opening the food now.
Eating the chicken. After she sprayed aerosol
all over the food.
He's like, you're going to wreck the food. And then he just uncovers it and eats it. Yeah.
Sorry, I did like the one, and it's towards the end of the film where Michael Caine starts praying. The captain looks to the generals like, sir, can we really count on a scientist who prays? Just like, ooh, they're getting philosophical now.
There you go.
No one's an atheist in a foxhole, right? And then the last one I had was they've decided to capture some of the bees so they can start to research them. And the general's like, when that swarm discovers that some of their number have been stolen captive, they might come back to Maryville. Like, as if they are that cognizant to like, hey, wait, 30,000 of us aren't here anymore. And that doesn't say like, you're giving them more intelligence than they deserve. It's like, I always give my enemies more intelligence than they.
Yeah, you're giving bees like forethought and like the fact that they want to seek revenge or whatever. Yeah.
On that, what doesn't hold up? Chad.
Well, I have several, but let's see. I'll start it off with, first of all, the special effects.
Yeah.
When they get stung, if they survive, if they're not killed, they go into this fever dream-like state. And when they get into this fever dream, they see this massive frickin' bee with its tongue out.
With its proboscis just and its massaging. Like clearly they got a macro lens on a bee that's like pollinating.
My God, yes, and they use that shot in everything. So you're just seeing this bee. And it's supposed to be scary, but it's so funny. It's like
there's one where the person opens the door and it's there like waiting for the door to open. It's like, and it reminded me of a bad Saturday Night Live where it's like the shark attack.
Oh, yes.
It's just so stupid.
Oh, it's so bad. And there's that whole scene where Crane comes in and for some reason he's talking to this boy. Like he decides, I'll come too. So the leading lady, I guess, is the main doctor of the film. And she goes to tend to the boy who's just witnessed his family get killed by these bees. He's in the hospital. He's been stung twice.
Yeah.
And so he's seeing this massive bee above his bed. And Crane just the whole point of him in this scene is to come in there and tell the boy that it's not real. And he's like, just reach your hand out and you'll see that it's not real. And so they really milk this for all it's worth. And the boy holds his hand out and the bee disappears. And then he says, all right, I gotta go. And then he takes off. And I was like, you didn't have to go in the first place.
But only he knew to tell the person to try to touch the hallucination.
Right, exactly. There's no bees in here. Yeah, so the special effects didn't hold up. And one of my other one was the overall look of the film. As we've made mention of already, it looked like a 1950s movie as opposed to a 1978. It really looked quite cheap and cheesy.
Yeah. For it doesn't hold up, I also mentioned the helicopters. I wrote it down like, I thought there'd be more helicopters in my life. Like, people always talk about quicksand, right? Like, where's quicksand gone?
Right.
But in the 1980s, right, we had Airwolf. Like, every movie had a helicopter. There was helicopter races, helicopter pilots. And now it's like, you don't see them other than traffic copters. Like, there's no helicopters in movies and TV shows. So it's like, they don't hold up because they've just disappeared.
Airwolf was badass, though. That was a wicked helicopter.
Yeah, it was a great helicopter. Bring back Airwolf. The other thing that doesn't hold up is the whole just African killer bee scare of the 70s, 80s, right? Like,
yeah.
And then we had that wasp scare a few years ago.
Yeah, it was the murder hornet right after the pandemic.
Yeah, it's going to kill all our bees. We're going to have no honey. It's like, yeah, where did that go? Like, I just remember the Africanized killer bees are coming up. And like,
that's right.
They're going to make their way into North America and we're all going to die. Yeah, like, clearly.
Stings have so much venom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the music. It was very 1970s, I guess. It was almost annoyingly so. And the equipment that they used, like the props of the film, just looked cheesy and cheap. At one point, they're in there doing their lab work and they're wearing spray painted motorcycle helmets. It just looked just bad. Yeah. They come in, and in the very opening scene when they come into the bunker, it does look very Star Trek, right? With all the flickering lights and the spinning discs and stuff. And,
all the technologies.
And
we even have the machine that goes bong, bong.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And I remember I missed this in my first impressions, but every person that died in that opening scene died in the most uncomfortable position I could possibly imagine. One guy had his arm up. Like, how long did that shot take that extra had to keep his arm up in that position for that long? Another guy was slouched in this chair that just looked super uncomfortable. His back must have been so messed up after that.
I never even thought of that.
Oh, man. Everybody was just in these weird positions. And I was like, come on, just fall down.
My last doesn't hold up is it has to do with the vernacular of the film, because at some point they stop saying the word bees.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Whenever they talk about it. And the line I wrote is like, from now on, the war against the Africans will be under military direction. And multiple times they say like, we will destroy the Africans. We will kill the Africans.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, say bees. It's really uncomfortable if you don't say bees afterwards.
That's what I wrote too. The war against the Africans. And then I said, they just started calling them Africans. What the fuck?
Like, it's once or twice. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it's like halfway through the movie, they stop referring to them as bees.
Yeah.
And just Africans. It is like, oh, yeah, I don't like this.
No, it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
We are going to move on to most gratuitous. What was one of your most gratuitous scenes?
One of mine was the slow motion. I just didn't think it was needed. I thought, in fact, that it took away from any... I don't know if they could build suspense or fear in this film anyways, but it just took away from anything. I laughed. Like, I thought it was so cheesy and dumb and just didn't work.
Well, I think the problem is because it's slow-mo, you really notice that the actors and the bees aren't at the same depth on camera.
Right.
And so they're spinning around in slow-mo like, I'm being stung. And then they just have like a, almost not CGI because they did use real bees, but they're sort of just like flying in the same space or area.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the actor. It just, in slow-mo, it becomes very obvious they're not getting attacked.
Yeah.
For me, one of my gratuitous was Richard Widmark, who plays the general, and Michael Caine just out acting each other in every scene. Like we've already talked about, Michael Caine gets angry and loud.
They just keep trying to top each other. Yeah.
And it's like, it just became gratuitous where it's like every time they interact, they have to get louder than the other.
Yes.
It's just too much.
Actually, I put that too. Anytime Michael Caine yells, but that's exactly what they're in the scene a lot. Like the two of them are in it a ton.
Yeah.
And every time they're always arguing.
Yeah. Yeah, I put Michael Caine's temper. He yells at everyone who questions him.
Yeah.
Every time.
He's not a very tolerant scientist, is he?
No. Did you have another one?
Well, I've already made mention with this, what doesn't hold up was the hallucinating, the bee. It was
so good.
I don't know if I need to say anything more.
Okay.
Because it was just so poorly done and so big on the screen.
But at different times, a different size.
Not that big. Yeah. So one time she saw it and it was quite small. And then whenever the boy saw it, it was massive above his bed. And then another time it was like medium sized, I guess. I don't know.
At one point it was man size.
Yeah. So it's just, it was weird. So inconsistent, I guess, but also just silly.
Yeah.
It's just
For me, the next one was at the picnic scene when it's a fire hose of bees that come out of the tree to attack the family. Like it's just
they shoot out of that wood pile or that tree. Just like they just come.
It's so good.
Yes.
I forget the number. I wrote it down, but the millions of bees that they used were all in that scene.
I wrote down how many they used as well. I think it was like 800,000 or something, maybe more.
15 to 22 million bees were used.
Oh, yeah. 22 million?
800,000 of them had their stingers removed.
Okay.
Yeah. But 22 million bees, or 15 to 22. Yeah, somewhere. It's a hell of a ballpark.
Give or take a bee. And then the killer to that was like that fire hose. They used that scene twice or 3 times, a couple of times. But when the kid goes back with his friends
to throw Molotovs.
And throws Molotov cocktails at him, like... And then he goes, "Oh crap!"
I was like, "Why are they running? They're not going to run away." And then they all get underneath the trash cans. I was like, that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
All right, we're now moving into our test of time, and I'm going to kick us off. And I know, so this one, it is a model, and we've talked about the models and how cheesy they are. But for a quarter of a second, I was like, "Oh my God, they actually crashed the helicopter." And then I was like, "Oh, it was clearly a bad model that crashed." But like in so many of those 1980s TV shows that I loved with helicopters, it would always like fly in behind the mountain and they would just set off the explosion. Because clearly it's like, we can't afford to actually crash the helicopter. So for a quarter of a second, it's like, hey, they did it. It's like, with a model. Damn it. So I did like that for a quarter of a second. What was one of yours?
Mine was that we have to respect the honeybee. One of the ways that the general says that they're going to defeat this villain, these swarms, is they're going to just launch a bunch of chemicals at them. And these chemicals should kill them, pesticides and whatever. But he says that'll destroy all the other insect life and the honeybee as well. And the honeybee is crucial for crops. And he actually yells this.
The honeybee is crucial to our agriculture.
But he loses it and yells about it. But it's true. Yeah, you need to respect the honeybee. Yeah,
it is impressive though. Like this is 1977, right?
Yeah.
A time when we're like DDTing and deeding the world
exactly.
to death. Yeah. There's still some people were aware of this, and 50 years later, we're still like, the bee? What?
Yeah.
Along that line, there was something at the end of the movie that I did have for a line or something, but I actually watched to the end of the credits for I don't know what reason. I think I was probably just taking notes and then it came up, but they do have a card at the end of the credits. It's like the African killer bee portrayed in this film bears absolutely no relationship to the industrious, hardworking American honeybee to which we are indebted for pollinating vital crops that feed our nation. And I found out in my research that is because like honey producers of America, like you can't have this movie. It's people you're going to demonize the bee the way that
people are going to kill the bees.
Yeah. I think they thought the film would have more sway than it did. Like with Jaws, people went out and started killing sharks.
Yeah.
They probably thought people are going to go out and start killing bees, but it never had the cultural impact.
No.
one of my test of times, and I just liked it because it was just, again, this almost goes to the gratuitous, but at the picnic when the boy's in the car and he starts the car to drive away, he's got to wipe the windows.
Yeah.
And it's just covered in bees. And I did like,
it's thick.
Yeah. And I just love watching the wipers clear it off. I'm like, okay, off we go.
Yeah. Just swipe them away. Yeah.
So I thought that was good. Did you have any others?
Well, just with that, I guess the fact that there were shots where those actors were covered in bees.
Yeah, that's true.
They had them crawling all over them and stuff like that. And I mean, that wasn't fake. And the actors did a really good job at like playing dead, I guess, while they were being covered by these bees.
Because there were some like right in the nostril.
Yeah,
and,
they're crawling all over them. Yeah. As junky as a lot of the acting was in this film, like, yeah, they could play dead well.
Yeah. You want an Academy Award? Can you lay there and not breathe? Great.
Awesome.
You're hired.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to move into our eerie to ear splitting. Chad, why don't you start us off with the sound?
Okay. Well, mine is pretty general and vague. It's just I did not like just the soundtrack to the film really at all. The opening credits tune was off-putting. I just found it annoying. You said kind of sci-fi, and I guess that's true, but it was, I don't know, it really didn't impact me that much.
Yeah.
Right? So anytime there was an attack, the audio was very, it just didn't play a big part in this film for me.
Yeah, the soundtrack itself, I didn't quite catch much at the beginning. I just wrote down like the music for the opening feels very similar to Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's what gave me that sci-fi sort of atmosphere.
Right.
But then it was like very 1970s TV show, like action sceney. And it was just off-putting, totally disengaging. Almost felt like Police Squad.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Or Dragnet.
As you were just mentioning that, I was talking how they walk through all those rooms.
Or like Get Smart, the opening to Get Smart.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, other than that, like sort of nostalgia of something better, the soundtrack did very little. I think they did do a good job with the hums of the bee in places.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, they did. Yeah. I mean, you knew the bees were around. Yeah, that's for sure.
There is the one trope we didn't talk about where they have a recording of the first attack of the military base.
Yes.
And Michael Caine's like, do you hear that? And like in the back, there's just that droning of the bees.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do have that trope of it's in the recording.
Yeah.
We are going to now move on to our back it up moments. And for me, I mean, we've made fun of it. We've laughed at it, but the giant bee hallucination, the first one, just when we don't know what it is or why it's there, is my back it up. Like just in a comical, like spit take kind of way.
Yeah.
Because it was just so out of left field. And I was like, what is this?
I know. I thought the same thing. I just, what is happening here?
And my other one, just out of morbidity's sake, the death of the school children. Just because you just don't see children dying in movies.
You don't. You really don't.
So when you have like 12 kids laying on the concrete outside the school window.
Yeah. No, it's something. I did make that comment while I was watching. I was like, "Oh, the kids die."
Yeah,
that's pretty dark. Her reaction to that, though, the principal's reaction to that is laughable.
Okay, you got to remind me because I can't remember.
She looks out the window and sees these dead kids, and then she turns around and goes, "Oh dear!"
Oh, yeah.
And then she just like has this long, like she's gonna cry, but she doesn't cry, and she's got this look on her face, and they hold it on there for at least 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you count 20 seconds, like that may not sound like a long time, but if you count out 20 seconds, that's forever. And she's in that frozen look for that long. It was just, oh God, it was so bad.
So bad.
But I did mention, the back it up was when the paraplegic kicks the door. I thought that was... I thought that was gold.
Henry Fonda just letting out some frustration with the film. That is our categories, and now we're going to move into our bonus features. Chad, do you want to share some of the research you found?
Well, one of the things that I found was the movie gets a lot of things wrong with regards to bees. Perhaps the biggest is missing the fact that bees die themselves when they sting people. Top of that, even Africanized bees aren't as ludicrously aggressive as depicted in this movie. The plot would actually have made a lot more sense had it involved wasps rather than bees.
Yes. Yeah, I thought about that throughout it. We talked about the number of bees, but something that sort of goes along with the number of bees is while they were filming, there were so many bees, they got covered in bee poop. And so I guess it was like little yellow dots. And Michael Caine in an interview said like there's these little yellow dots that were left on their clothing when they were finished filming. And a lot of them thought it was honey because they didn't really understand how honey was made. So they would pick off the yellow bits and eat it, thinking they're eating like fresh honey. And it turns out they're all eating bee poop. So I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome.
The budget for the film was $21 million. It made $7.
Yeah. I did research that, and that's a pretty big goose egg.
Yeah.
21 million and it made $7.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that the cast was like going to be my test of time until the movie started. It did have 7 Oscar winners, and Michael Caine admitted that he signed on to the film because of the cast. He didn't actually read the script. He just...
Oh, no.
They probably said like, well, we've got Olivia de Havilland, Ben Johnson, Lee Grant, Henry Fonda. He's like, oh, I'll do it. And yeah, he later regretted it. He said this is the worst movie he ever made. Irwin Allen refuses to talk about the film.
Really?
Yeah. The director has completely disowned it.
I just found a couple of things. Henry Fonda is actually an avid beekeeper in real life.
Yeah. I don't know how he acted in this film then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and just to piggyback off how he disowned it, there's a snippet on the IMDb website that says that he was so disheartened by the amount of money he lost on this film that he forbade any of his employees to ever mention it again. He even cut short an interview when a question was asked about it.
Yeah. That's harsh.
Like, we are not talking about that movie.
Yeah. Just on the IMDb, the one that I liked was there's a 3-note musical motif that I didn't quite catch when I was watching it, but apparently it is the notes B, E, E played throughout the film.
Nice.
Yeah. The rest I have is just like where actors are. Like it is 7 Oscar winners.
Yep.
And they do have quite the resumes and quite the CVs, but I think they all moved on or away from this film after it came out. And even Irwin, you know, he did the Poseidon Adventure,
right,
which was great.
Yeah, that's a good.
And I think he did Towering Inferno as well. Yeah, so like he's known for disaster films, but this one just, I don't know if it was the script or what.
Well, one of his earlier films, right? Like y'all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this one just really misses the mark. And I'm just going to make reference to this because we didn't, and I wasn't sure where to put it in to the end. But Crane is like an entomologist.
Yeah.
And his big way to solve this problem is dump oil in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, we never talked about this.
And start it on fire. Yeah. Like,
we'll destroy an ecosystem.
He freaks out on the general because he wants to like drop chemicals on these bees and kill them, but it'll kill the rest of the insect life. But he's all good with creating a giant oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico and then burning it off, like with no regard to what that's going to do.
Well, he doesn't study marine life, so he doesn't care.
Oh my God. I was just shocked that was the way they were going to end the film.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, as far as research goes, I didn't get a lot, the little snippets there are what I had.
There wasn't a lot to find.
No,
for a film with this much of a cast, there was not a lot of writing about it.
Which I think speaks to how this film did and how proud these actors are that it's out there, right? Yeah. Like Michael Caine has gone on to have a great career.
Yeah.
And it just was not good in this.
No, but he was really punching for that Oscar.
Oh man, he was yelling hard.
This is my Oscar clip. This is my Oscar.
And now I get to yell. And now I'm going to do this. And those two really, really milked it up. Even there was a scene at the beginning where he's like, oh, come on, Dr. Crane. And the general is talking to Michael Caine. And the camera decides at that time to do this annoying as hell 360 shot where it just comes all the way around while the general is yelling at Crane, and it starts from the general's right shoulder just behind him and goes all the way around, and it's like, why?
Atmosphere. All right, so let's move on to our watchability scale. I got to give it a 1.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been spending a bit of time, like when I'm placing things on the scale when we release the new episodes and just looking at where things are and where things are at. And this will come up in our decade in review episode of maybe things need to be adjusted, but looking at everything else that we've put in at the 1 or the 2, the 2s had some charm or something to them that we at least enjoyed. Like, cause I think Corpse Grinders was a 2. Right, because there was some rewatchability, some right. But I look at our ones with Ends in the Darkness and the amusement park and things like that, and
yeah,
this
we didn't
one
like that.
sits right there for me.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing about this movie was talking about it afterwards. I didn't laugh this much while I was watching the film. I barely cracked a smile while I was watching the film. It's a disaster film, so maybe I'm not supposed to, but it wasn't enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
It came in at 2 hours 30. I cannot stress that enough. That's just so long for a horror film or a disaster movie when so many of the scenes could have just been axed.
Well, and actually, we never brought this up in our research. This movie, when it was originally released, was just around the 2-hour mark.
Right.
And then with the re-release, they added in all that extra stuff. I'm guessing the Maureen, Felix, Clarence love triangle isn't as fleshed out in the original cut. So I don't know who... Irwin Allen probably didn't want to touch that re-release, but who from the studio went back and said, you know what this movie needs that did really shitty?
Is extra footage. Yeah. Let's really get into this love triangle. The one scene I remember where the guy that has moved into town and he's trying to woo the principal. And
Clarence.
He comes into the coffee shop, sits down, and all he says is, can't have the usual today, just a coffee. And he talks to frickin' Colonel Sanders there that has the Texas tie. Her husband apparently has just died by these bees. And all he says, geez, you should give her a day off.
Yeah.
And he says, she said that if she had a day off and just sat there and looked at those 4 walls, she'd take out his service revolver and shoot herself in the head.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
And then he says, so I think it's just best that she comes here and works and just forgets about it. And that's the scene. Yeah. And then he leaves.
Right.
And why? So I guess you're right. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to give it a 1-2. Just don't waste your time.
No.
It's not worth it. It's a long watch. It's tired. I mean, there's some points. If you listen to the podcast and then you watch it, you'll see what we're making fun of.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe you want to do that.
But you brought it on yourselves.
But then, yeah.
Don't come back at us.
Yeah. But it's not a fun ride. I'll tell you that.
Maybe the clips are on YouTube. If you just YouTube swarm giant bee hallucination, maybe you can get that.
Yeah, you can just watch it in snippets or something. Or Michael Caine yelling. Or the paralyzed guy kicks the door.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's got to be on YouTube.
You can find it in chunks. I wouldn't say seek this film out.
No. And with that, we come to an end. So thank you very much for listening to us. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. We are at ScreamStreamPod. Stop by our website, screamsandstreams.com, where we have information about our episodes, descriptions of our categories, links to our research, and our watchability scale, where we rank all the films we are looking at. And please rate, comment on, and subscribe to our show on any of the platforms where you get your podcasts. Until next time, this has been Mike and
Chad.
Scare you later.